From Wall Street to Main Street, this is Lalate.
It's a big evening of Evenings Lalate with incredible, huge news about lots of checks sent out from Joe Biden for your first stimulus check update of 2022 tonight. A new $7,000 check sent out by the President of the United States. Have you gotten it? I'll have it tonight across the land. A new $15,000 to $80,000 check gone out. Have you gotten it? I'll have it tonight as well. And then those MSC checks going out as well. Have you gotten them? They're featured in tonight's recording. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, it's Evenings LA. The breaking news tonight across the land, a lot of it. First, the Build Back Better Act gets a new push from the President of the United States. And economic data today says we need it. I'll have the latest details on that data and what Joe Biden said about Build Back Better Act. And it's all incredible, great news. Then we turn to the latest developing details on that CR front. Did the President of the United States get more money for COVID? He did. Was there a deal? He did get a deal. What does it mean for you? I'll have the latest across the board. Then we look to SS 300 that'll raise your benefits up $300 more per month. It is dependent upon what Jay Powell, your head of the Federal Reserve, does with stagflation, does with recession, and does with interest rates tonight. And there's a lot of breaking news on this front tonight. Huge data across the board. Then we turn to overseas and domestically, 6 stimulus. It was supposed to have the progressive alliances of Germany, France, and the United States, but tonight's questions abounds of whether it's falling apart or whether Joe Biden's doing it himself. I'll have the latest details on that front tonight. Then we'll be looking at 5th stimulus. We'll be looking at 7th stimulus. That student loan debt forgiveness just a few days away for May 7th. As we go to the big night, there's a lot of money at issue, and those checks are going to be covered in tonight's recording and the breaking news behind them as well. A new $7,000 check announced by the president less than 24 hours ago. A new $15,000 to $80,000 check going into week 5. Have you gotten it? I'll have it tonight as well. And new MSC checks heating up as well. From the shores of Santa Monica to the shores of the Black Sea, we have a lot of breaking news and a lot of financial news. Are we in a recession? All the latest details tonight, whether the United States has already entered a recession. It's breaking news, it's financial news, and it's Evenings Lalate. And good evening, everybody. It's a big night across the land. We have a lot of breaking developing details on checks, lots of checks, $7,000 check, $15,000 to $80,000 checks, and MSC checks. In tonight's recording, we'll go over all those checks, how you get it, and the breaking news behind them. A big recording tonight for America's most watched show in prime time, the Evenings LA, stay to the very end. Then we'll be going over the breaking news about all the other checks that are coming on the horizon. Those are student loan debt forgiveness. They are SS 300. They are 6 stimulus. And they are 5th stimulus. Those details and more coming up later in this video. And then finally, the analysis later. Are we in recession already? And should you be preparing your family for the recession of 2 years of 2023 and 2024? All the breaking economic data today, because there was a lot of economic data today. It comes up after those big checks. It's a big recording tonight, folks, from the shores of Santa Monica, California, to the shores of the Black Sea. I thank you for joining me. But first, let's start with the Build Back Better Act. The Build Back Better Act, the forced stimulus recon, not a law, but currently in the Senate. And the President of the United States addressing it several times this week. First, let's go over the checks, and then we'll go over the breaking news behind them. Build Back Better Act, a forced stimulus recon, pays about $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. Those 3 clusters and 3 add-ons, let's look at each of them, starting right now. Those first clusters have lots of checks in them. In that first cluster, we have hazard pay and the money for my earned income tax credit, EIC, essential workers, 1 more year, extended on the 3rd stimulus. $4,000 of elder care checks in there, $4,000 check for young children, $3,600 checks for the CTC for the young children as well. Then they got the $550 check for the college student in there, the Pell Grant, the $12,500 check for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. And then they got money in that first cluster to repair your home if you live in a low-income community. It's huge. The first of the three add-ons or checks of the Build Back Better Act is less than $25,000. It is money for the purchase of your first home, got in there via Maxine Waters here in Southern California. This is money that will be given by the federal government to the seller in your name at the time of escrow for the purchase of your first home. That is incredible. That is the first of three add-ons or checks to the Build Back Better Act. Now, this is where it gets very dicey and interesting tonight. That second cluster of checks, let's pay attention here, was to have in there home repairs to weatherize your home and paid leave. But the breaking news tonight, folks, is that that second check has been taken out of the Build Back Better Act and made law and has been sent out. Yes, you're hearing this tonight on Evenings LA. A $6,500 check has been taken out of second cluster and has now been made law and has been sent out. I'm going to go over how to get that check in just a second. It was in that second cluster at home repairs. But what is staying in the second cluster is the paid leave. Paid leave is a lot of money if you have to stay home from work due to sickness or illness. How much does it pay? If you make $70,000 or more per year, it's $1,700 a week. Split in half if you make $35,000 a week. And if you make $15,000 a year, it's $400 a week. 4 to 6 weeks per year, that's a lot of money, about $4,000 to $6,000. W-2, 1099, if you don't work but your son or daughter does work, they get the check if they have to take you to the doctor as part of the household. That is paid leave. Then when we turn to the second add-on of checks to the Build Back Better Act Forced Stimulus Recon bill currently in the Senate, we find, yes, here it goes, $250 billion of free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Huge. Then when we turn to the third cluster, checks, deliciousness. Seniors checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, internet checks, free checks for all, and then free checks for the independent contractors. But when we talk about the seniors getting lots of checks, let's look at those checks for seniors. Dental, vision, lowering the eligibility age of Medicare, hearing, and the Medicaid gap fix. Yes, that is among the House and Senate. When we're talking about that Senate, that is par for the course with the senators because they vowed to add other checks to the Build Back Better Act. What are those other checks? You heard of me right. MSC. The senators represent they're going to be adding in a monthly IRS stimulus check to the Build Back Better Act for stimulus recon. Who would get it? They represent if you're single, you would get it if you make $75,000 or less. Same eligibility as a third stimulus check. Double it if you're family, a married couple, $150,000 or less. Family of four, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, you get it as well. It is not income. It is not taxable. It comes out nationwide, and it goes off the most recent tax return. If that's what had a direct deposit, that's how you get paid. Otherwise, in the mail. How much does it pay? The senators represent they would pay $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter, for up to 6 months. That, my friends, is the Build Back Better Act, the Forced Stimulus Recon bill, currently in the Senate. But the breaking news tonight, which you heard in the opening remarks of tonight's primetime broadcast, is that the President of the United States has been watching what's going on with Build Back Better in the recent days, and now he has seen what's happening with the housing market, and the mortgage industry, interest rates, stagflation, recessionary concerns, and out of nowhere, in less than 2 weeks, the President has now assured us that 3 different pots of checks have gone out, and they have. They're coming up later in this video. Let's go over what those 3 checks are. First, MSC checks from third stimulus are going out, and viewers have got to them, averaging $2,000 a month for $1,000 for 12 months. How do you get them? They're coming up later in this video. Then, number 2, $15,000 to $80,000 checks from fourth stimulus. The president made it a law. That has now been law for 5 weeks. I featured day 1 of this channel when it happened 5 weeks ago. But brand new tonight, as we go into the second night of announcement that was made on March 31st, new $6,500 fourth stimulus checks. Yeah, you just heard them in that opening remarks. That paid leave? No, this is the weatherize your home. The President of the United States has now taken the weatherize your home provision from Build Back Better Act out, and it sent it out to you. Yes, $6,500 checks from Fourth Stimulus Recon. Yes, now law. $15,000 to $80,000 checks from Fourth Stimulus Recon. Yes, now law. And Third Stimulus MSC checks. Now law. How do you get them? They're coming up in just a second. Let's go over the breaking details tonight about Build Back Better Act. And there is a lot of breaking news tonight, folks, across the land. First, economic data today signals that Build Back Better Act needs to get done quickly. The U.S. economy added 431,000 jobs in the month of March, despite worries about the economy as a whole. The unemployment rate declined 3.6% in the new data released April 1st, but this was below expectations. The U.S. economy added 1.7 million jobs for the month of February. This is non-payroll numbers released for April 1st. But here's what you need to know, is that a miss on the jobless claims number is not good. That is the first part of the equation. The number of unemployed people was not shrinking, going down as fast as they expected it. So 3.6%, it was expected to be lower, meaning less people unemployed. It was actually more people unemployed. We actually had a preview of that yesterday when I said that the new unemployment claims for the week ending last week, but announced on March 31st, was 200,000 new unemployment claims. That's not a good number. Why? Because that was the number we had the week before we went into the pandemic, March 2020. And we've seen better numbers throughout 2022. So while we got very low on new unemployment claims throughout much of this year, they're going back up. Okay, now we see that the unemployment number is actually not improving as fast as we think it's going. What is the new other economic data that signals that Build Back Better Act needs to get done? Well, we have the mortgage numbers. The mortgage numbers on the 30-year fix grew to its highest price point of nearly 2 decades this week, over 5%. Then we had the new home starts. This is how many homes are sold week after week, month after month. For the 4th consecutive month, the number of home sales fell. This is bad. Month after month, 4 months, we have bad home sales. And then finally, we have the economic data that came in early in the week, and that data signaled that the inflationary numbers continue to go in an inversion curve. I'll go over that inversion curve tonight, but what does that mean? It means we're heading into recession or are in recession. Meantime, Joe Manchin addressed the situation of the Build Back Better Act in great news over the last weekend. When he was asked, does he want to get it done? He does want to get it done. He wants to get it done right way. It was also confirmed by Joe Manchin's press secretary, who said that Manchin is on board to get the Fourth Stimulus Recon done. Good. So tonight, the situation for April 1st, 2022 is that the economic data is not getting better. It's actually getting a little bit worse on the unemployment front. It's getting bad on the housing starts. It's getting bad on the mortgage numbers. It's getting bad on the inversion curve. And Joe Manchin wants to get it done. We'll have more about this later in this video, but let's now turn to that CR. Major developing detail on the continuing resolution. Remember, that was passed 3 weeks ago. Had money in there for county stimulus. Then the president coming back saying, I want some more money for COVID because guess what? The subvariant to Omicron is likely to be the dominant strain in the United States in just a few days, and that leaves the president in a bind because he has no money for COVID. So the latest developing details is that we may have a deal. The deal is between Mitt Romney on behalf of the Republicans and Chuck Schumer, announced last night. It's not a law and it does not have stimulus in it, but we will watch of whether the president can accept it. The president may not accept it because it's half of the amount of money that he wanted for COVID. Wow. Very surprising across the board. Now, we have other developing details, and those breaking details are huge, and they are on the SS300 front. What is SS300? Joe Biden, when running for president of the United States, represented he was going to raise your benefits up by swapping COLA for inflation. Then when he became president-elect, he put in his platform presidential of policies, and that was swapping COLA for inflation. By swapping COLA for inflation, you lock in more money. How does it work? Well, COLA is a benchmark that doesn't work. Inflation is tracking 8% the month of December, as I had predicted all last year. I was the only one getting that inflationary number right. Jay Powell, the Federal Reserve, said it was going to be 1% to 2% temporary. I said, no, it's going to be 8%, and it's not going to be temporary. I was right. It came in at 8% in December. Then it came in at 8% in February. Where is it trading tonight? It's likely trading higher tonight because the 10-year Treasury note continues to trade higher. The bond traders are trading up the notes. And the inversion is happening at that inversion curve. That's all good for you, because if Joe makes that swap from COLA to inflation today, you lock in $200 more per month. Not just this month, not just this year, lifetime. And what about in December? Well, if inflation tracks at 4% later this year, as Jay Powell said he wanted to do in February, that would be another $100 on top of that, SS300. But what's new today? What's new today is a lot of breaking news on this SS300 front for April 1st, 2022. First, most Wall Street analysts have now reassessed their predictions for April, May, and June with Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve. Yeah, it's a very fluid situation. It changes by the month. This is totally different than where it was even just 30 days ago, even 3 weeks ago. Most analysts and I and myself also agree that the Federal Reserve will not do a quarter basis point at its next FOMC meeting to reduce inflation. Oh no. Most everyone is now agreeing he's going to do half basis point for not just that meeting, but for the next two meetings. There's going to be 2 half basis point increases from Jay Powell over the next 2 FOMC meetings. This is a big change tonight, folks. It's a big change because this will bring down inflation much faster. If we raise interest rates with 2 half basis points in 2 meetings, we are bringing down inflation much faster. Yes, inflation would be coming down much faster. If inflation is coming down much faster, what does that mean for your SS300? It may not be SS200 this spring. It may only be SS175. That is the first part of the equation. The second part of the equation tonight, this is where it gets very interesting, is some analysts believe that Jay Powell is choosing between 2 harms, whether he wants inflation or whether he wants recession, and he's choosing recession. More about that later in tonight's recording. But what does this mean for your SS300? If that's the case, we're going to recession, and then interest rates are going higher, and inflation is coming down, and that's not SS300. That's SS275 or SS200. So the takeaway tonight is that Joe Biden needs to make that phone call right away. If the analysis is right, and I believe it is right, that you're going to have 2 half a basis point increases in the next 2 FMC meetings, it's brand new tonight, folks, then you want Joe to make that swap for COLA inflation right now. Call that Social Security head, because this is much more aggressive. It may be too aggressive by Jay Powell. It may be so aggressive we're going into recession. What's my analysis tonight? Jay Powell has chosen recession. And I think that Jay Powell believes we already are in recession. Later in this video tonight, I reveal, if you look at the economic data, we already are in recession. So I'll have the latest details on that. But the important thing to understand is that Joe Biden needs to make that swap from COLA and inflation right now to lock in that $200 before the inflationary numbers reveal 5%, 6% from where it's tracking at about 8% right now. Now, that is on that front. I'll have more about that analysis later in this video and what that inversion curve is looking at. But here's the big news. Out of nowhere, in less than 2 weeks, well, I guess you would say it's almost 5 weeks, the President of the United States has now sent out 3 different items of checks for you, presumably looking at Build Back Better Act and understanding it's not a law and that he wants those checks to go out. In fact, we don't even have to presume that. Why? Because the White House even said it. Let's go over the breaking news first tonight. The breaking news tonight first is that $6,500 check that was supposed to be in Build Back Better bill, which is not law. The president took of his tweezers, pulled it out, and has now made it law in the executive branch, which he can, and has actually sent it out. Wow. This is the first? No, this is the second time. Yes, the president has done this in just a few weeks. It looks like he wants to do this. Let's go over first the details of it. The president, in a press briefing on March 31st in the Oval Office, announced a new energy prices to reduce the price of gasoline. But you know how I rock and roll on this channel. I watch for every check when it's announced. And he said, and today I'm making available a $6,500 grant for homeowners to weatherize your home. Hold up. I immediately heard it and I said, that's for stimulus. That's cluster number 2. I've been making that recording for nearly a year. It's now out of cluster number 2. It is. In fact, Brian Deasy and the president that same day in different press conferences said the president is not waiting around, is now taking out what he can from Bill Bacharach and pushing it out to you. Oh boy, folks, this is a new universe, and this is incredible great news. So let's go over this first check, then we're going to go over the $80,000 check, and then we're going to go over the MSC checks. First, this $6,500 check. Can you get it? You absolutely can. Number one, it's law. The president made it law, and he made it law on March 31st. Number two, if you make $75,000 less, can you get it? Yes. If you make $150,000 less as a married couple, can you get it? Yes. And if you're on benefits, can you get it? Absolutely. What about that $15,000 to $80,000? The same thing. Wow. And then what about those MSC checks? The same eligibility. It's huge. And where does this land? It lands in the membership newsletter for members. If you haven't become a member, it's important to do so. I'll tell you why. Because the president announced the $15,000 to $80,000 checks 5 weeks ago. The night he announced it, it immediately appeared in the membership newsletter. Because I know the importance of you pouncing, getting first in line. It's sort of like a rock star and getting the tickets to see your favorite rock star. You want to get the tickets as soon as it goes live. When the president announced this $6,500 on March 31st, how long did it take for it to get into the newsletter? About 2 hours with the link for you to apply. I didn't wait around. You should wait around as well. So become a member. The link's at the top of the channel, the pinned comment. You don't want to wait around to get either these checks or the MSC checks, because guess what? They're coming up in the second half of this video. I'm going to show you how to get them. I didn't wait around to give you the information. You don't wait around to pounce as a purple hawk and get these checks. Then the second half of this video, we have a lot coming up tonight, folks. We have the 6 stimulus package. Is the 6 stimulus package falling apart, or is it being done just by Joe Biden? 6 stimulus is April. 6 stimulus is oil. The president announcing a major oil policy yesterday in the White House. Was it on point or was it off point? And why does it look different than what Germany was doing just days before? All the latest details on that. Then we'll be looking at that 7 stimulus, just days on that. May 2nd is the inherent deadline the president set to forgive student loan debt or extend the moratorium on the repayment. Will he forgive or will he extend the moratorium? All the latest details in the second half of this video. Then we'll be looking at the changing, developing details on that 5th stimulus and Jay Powell's pivot on those interest rates. And finally, in the final minutes of this video, you're going to hear analysis you haven't heard anywhere else. Are we in a recession tonight? I'll pull all the economic data that came out in the last 7 days. I'll go over it with you. And you and I together as a family will analyze whether the U.S. economy is currently tonight in a recession and what it means for the future of your wallet. I'll have all that big details and more as we go into the big second half. But first, on the commercial break, make sure you become a member so you get ready for all those checks. Get your pen and paper ready because you want to take notes on the big checks coming up in the second half of this video. It's a big night tonight, folks, on Evenings Lalate. First, here's a little bit about the members community page. See you back in 60 seconds. For America's most watched show for financial news in prime time, it's Evenings Lalate. See you back in 60 seconds.
If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. They're at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LA Late Daily for the excitement of the new LA Late live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LA Late at 9 a.m. Home LA Late returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LA Late at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LA Late.
And the excitement continues in a big second half of Evenings LA from Santa Monica, California for April 1st, 2022. Major relevant details tonight as not one, not two, but 3 different pounds of checks from the President of the United States have been sent out. And I'm going to go over how you get those big checks. You got to make the effort and pounce, Purple Hawks. And it's a big night with a lot of money. Then we'll be turning to developing details on 6 stimulus. That is in April. We'll be turning to developing details on 7 stimulus. That is in May. And we'll be turning to developing details on 5th stimulus. That is right now. A lot of major developing details across the front, and we'll be looking back on the developing elements of Vladimir Putin and Ukraine and why it impacts your wallet. And the final minutes of this video, stay to the very end because I got more surprises for you in the final minutes of this video. And with that, let's turn to all these incredible checks. We're going to start first with the breaking news on that $6,500 brand new check. The President of the United States, in comments on March 31st, 2022, and then also repeated by his lead economic counsel, Brian Deasy, confirmed the President took a provision from Build Back Better second cluster for weatherizing your home and took that check out of Build Back Better Act and made it law himself. How could he do it? Because the executive branch, the president has the ability to have his agencies send out money. And he said, send out the money. So let's go over this first check. First, how much is it? $6,500. Yes. Now, is it actually more? This is where it gets very interesting. In some jurisdictions, the amount may be more. It won't be less. There's a lot of data that says some jurisdictions have actually increased it as upwards of $12,000. Number 2, is it nationwide? It absolutely is. Number 3, is it going to run out of funds? This is where it gets a little bit interesting. It may not run out of funds because it's not funded the same way as the next check that's coming out. So it may not run out of funds. All right, so who can get it? You can. Eligibility, income, oh boy, it's the same as a third stimulus check. Single individual, $75,000 last year, you can get it. Married couple, $150,000 last year, you can get it. You do not double or triple or quadruple it. It is $6,500. Now, what is it called? It's called the Weatherizing Grant. In fact, I don't even have to use that name. The presence of the name. In fact, that is the name. It's the Weatherizing Grant. As a grant, it means you do not have to pay it back. It is not income. It's not taxable. It's nationwide. So who can get this money? Can people on benefits get this money? Absolutely. If you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, you can get this money as well. What is the last eligibility on this check? This last eligibility is that you own a home because it's to weatherize the home. What does weatherize the home mean? It means to prepare the home for rain or hurricane or fire or tornado or natural disaster. It depends on where you live, and it depends on the definition of weatherization in your state. But there you go. So how do you get this big check, $6,500? You become a member. The President of the United States announced it on the afternoon of March 31st. By the evening of March 31st, it was in the membership newsletter. I don't wait, I pounce, I get it for you because I know you need to get it as soon as possible. That's why you need to become a member. The link is at the top of the chat and the pinned comment. Become a member right today to get that newsletter. You're going to open the newsletter and you're going to see the price of wheat, grain, and oil and gasoline today. And then right below it, the second item will be this, the weatherizing the grant. Now, here is where it is tonight. The situation may change. I have a direct link in the membership newsletter for you to go to a government website. And that government website, then you can enter your state's name, like Alabama. Alabama. Then you add the words weatherizing, and it comes right up, and it says Alabama Weatherizing Grant Program. California Weatherizing Grant Program. Florida Weatherizing Grant Program. And you go apply. Is there one website for all the applications? No. It starts on the nationwide website and then sends you to the state, all featured in the membership newsletter. So become a member today and get that big check. All right, the second check has been live for 5 weeks, and it looks like that last check I just went over. Because guess what? It was announced by the president on a Friday, and as soon as announced by the president, I immediately featured in the membership newsletter. Viewers have gotten the actual checks by now. The turnaround time to get the check is about 1 week. The average channel viewer is getting about $66,000 on a check. Again, this is a 4 stimulus add-on. It is law. It is a 4 stimulus check. It is the second 4 stimulus check I'm going over in this video. The first one I just went over, $6,500. This one is more. $15,000 to $80,000 check. It is one check. The average view of this channel is tracking about $66,000 on this. So let's go over the income qualifications, everything else you need to know. First, this is called, for purposes of this video, the homeowner's grant. How much does it pay? $15,000 to $80,000 per household. So you don't double it, triple it, quadruple it. Income qualification, the same we just went over. Single individual, $75,000 less, you get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, you get it. The beneficiaries, same as before. You can get this as well. Veterans, seniors, people on disabilities. Yes, you can get it. The last eligibility, again, that you're a homeowner. You can get it. So where do you find this? In the membership newsletter. In the membership newsletter, right below the one for the $6,500 is this one. 5 weeks has been out. The name is a little bit longer first than the homeowner's grant. It's a longer name. Next, it's going to go over the income qualification. Wow. Then it's going to go over what the money pays for, like home repairs. And then it's going to give you the link. You're going to click the link and go right in to apply. You're not going to wait a minute. You're not going to wait a day. When you apply, it says complete. And if it's complete, then you get approved about a week later. You get funded about a week later. $15,000 to $80,000 checks. Third, the third pounds of checks are a little bit different. Let's go over these. First, are these for homeowners? They are, but they're also for, yes, renters. The third item of checks are third stimulus MSC checks for renters and homeowners. I got you all covered in tonight's video, folks. This is huge. So let's go over all the details of this third MSC check. First, what's important to understand is that this is third stimulus. Third stimulus became a law last January. This is not fourth stimulus. This does not replace fourth stimulus. It is different than fourth stimulus. It is a third stimulus MSC check. Now, what's important to understand is that you may have gotten a third stimulus check last year, $1,400. This is an addition to it. It is a monthly check. How many is our viewers getting? On average, they are getting $2,000 a month for 12 months. Yes, that's huge. It's more than fourth stimulus would ever promise, and it's a lot of money. So where do you get these checks? You're going to reach out to 6 places to get those checks because guess what? Those checks are huge sums of money. Again, the average channel viewer is getting anywhere from about $2,000 a month for 12 months, but many are getting over $100,000. You're going to reach out to the following places: your city hall, your city house authority; your county hall, your county house authority. And the keywords you're going to say are rent assistance because of COVID, mortgage or utility assistance because of COVID. Let's stop the graphic right there. Do not say words I did not say there. So do not call up asking for an MSC check. You say these key words. You do not have to be behind on your rent. You don't have to be behind on your mortgage. These are the key words you say. Then, what's important to understand is that you must reach out to all 6 places. This is the difference of being a member and not a member. If you're not a member, I just went over the 6 places. But if you're a member, you get at least about 5 additional places from the nonprofits in the membership newsletter, bringing you to more places to get more money. That's the benefit of being a member. Put multiple applications on file and get as many months as you can. Become a member today to learn more about this and lean on those nonprofits. The membership newsletter features the nonprofits. Those nonprofits fund for other items and even home repairs. The average view of this channel is getting about $45,000. Get those big sums of money today. This is MSC checks. This is third stimulus. This is an addition to everything else you got. The average payout is $45,000. Get it right tonight. Become a member. Do not wait. Get these checks across the land. You don't want to wait on any of these sums of money. Now, what's important to understand is that the landscape as we sit here tonight is getting very good news. We have a $6,500 check available and landing. We have a $15,000 to $80,000 check available and landing. And we have MSC checks available and landing. What's important to understand is that this is 2022. Don't use your focus of how you've done things in the past or the way you did then. Get these checks right now. And if you need to be convinced on why to get these checks right now, later in this video, I'm going to show you that, in my opinion, the U.S. economy is already in recession. If we are going into a 2-year recession, you want to get every single check that I show you as quickly as I show it to you in your hand. You don't want to wait around. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to debate it. You don't want to say, I did it differently in the past. You want to get it if we're heading into recession or are in a recession. That's coming up in just a second in this recording. All right, let's go over to the other breaking developing details that impact your wallet across the board. First, Build Back Better. When we look at that Build Back Better, the president actually said during his announcement in the White House on March 31st that because of the energy situation, we need to pass Build Back Better. Good. I like that he's on message. But the economic data signals that Build Back Better needs to get passed. Why? If you've been with this channel since day one, when data is bad, meaning the economy looks weaker than we thought it is, you need stimulus. It's a very simple concept. If the economy looks too good, then maybe there'll be detractors to say you don't need stimulus. Well, the data today is that the economics are not as good as we thought they were. First, we have for April 1, the jobs number a miss. When we say miss, it did not meet the target, meaning that the jobs did not, that they were looking for non-payroll jobs to be generated at 431,000 for the month of March. We did not generate that many jobs. We were looking for 490,000 jobs. We only generate 430,000. So we missed on the job creation number, or at least today, April 1st. Then we missed on the number of unemployment. We thought that unemployment was dropping faster in the month of March. It did not fall faster in the month of March. It only fell by 3.6%. Also a miss. The misses continue day after day on this channel. Not for me, but for the economy. The mortgage refi number was a miss the day before. Mortgage refis plummeted 60%, the lowest level since 2018, because the mortgage rate is surging to 5%. The 30-year fix is averaging at about 4.8%, up from 4.5%. And that is why the new housing starts are down month after month for 4 consecutive months. The number of car purchases are dramatically down as well. Everyone bought a car in 2021, not in 2022. The number of car sales are dramatically down. That data continues to unfound. Then we have Joe Manchin saying he wants to do Build Back Better. I think he wants to do it now because he understands the economy is not doing as strong as we think it is. We also had the GDP number, which signals how large the economy is growing. Did we hit on that number as well? No, we missed on that number as well this week. The GDP number was supposed to be 7%, it was a 6.9. How many times am I going to say this week that the economic number missed? It missed here, it missed there. Every time it's a miss, it means the economy is not as strong. If the economy is not as strong, that's why you need forced stimulus. And that is why Joe Biden, I really think, is going to get that forced stimulus done in the next 4 weeks. I really think it's going to happen. That is the Build Back Better bill. Now let's turn to the front of where we are tonight on 6 stimulus. This is where, folks, it gets really interesting tonight. 6 stimulus is the biggest stimulus package of a generation. It's bigger than the first stimulus package for COVID of 2020. It's bigger than the Biden-Obama stimulus package to bail out the banking industry. This is a huge one. What is this for? It's to prevent recession. Prevent a recession? I thought you said we are in a recession. More about that later. This is to prevent recession. What is it to deal with? Deal with a series of issues. Number 1, oil. Number 2, the commodity shortage causing bread and wheat and grain to go through the roof. Number 3, the banking industry potentially taking a hit from Vladimir Putin's potential and viewed and anticipated defaults of April 2022 around the corner. And also this issue of supply chain. If supply chain remains an issue for China, then what does it mean for our economy? Well, tonight the data on this front is getting very dicey. Let me go over why it's getting dicey and how we got from good to potentially not so good. What is 6 stimulus? 6 stimulus started from the President of the United States. It started from the President of the United States sending his Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, overseas and meeting with Germany and France, saying you must get off of Russian oil. Get off of it. And the immediate reaction from Germany was no. We can't because we are too dependent upon it. Anthony Blinken pushed back by the second week of the invasion of Ukraine, saying you must get off of that Russian oil. And then Germany rethought the situation and said, okay, we will get off the red Russian oil. And we'll do it as a team. Germany, France, and US as a progressive alliance, and we'll debt spend and give stimulus to our citizens. Now, here's something new tonight on E! News LA you haven't heard before. Germany generally does not prescribe to the same sort of economic view that the United States does, and actually often throws our sort of economic view by the wayside. They do the things their own way. And so when they said no to Blinken initially, that's how Germany usually reacts. When they said yes to Blinken, that they would get off the Russian products, that was a new element for Germany. Germany never really acts that way. So Germany in 2022 was acting like a new economic entity. And then what happened after that? That is where it got very peculiar. Peculiar number one was the President of the United States was trying to get a major deal for 15 years with Iran. Iran has not had its oil in our economy for many, many years. Why? Because Iran was building up nuclear warheads. And because of that, we embargoed Iran. It's called the JCPOA. Well, in about the last 3 weeks, Germany, yes, Germany again, and France, negotiating on behalf of the United States, wow, have been meeting with Iran in Vienna to do a deal that would have Germany and France give the United States Iran to disarm its own nuclear warheads in exchange for, you ready for this? All that Iranian oil floating into world economies at 500,000 barrels a day, growing to 1.5 million barrels by December. This is an astronomical number that would bring our economy back to the price of gasoline it was nearly a generation ago. We've never seen gasoline at those price points. So what happened? What happened was the president, before going to Brussels about a week ago, was basically informed the deal is done. The deal is done. Get ready to sign that deal in Vienna. The president went to Brussels, and then he did another deal with the EU, which includes Germany and France. And that deal was to provide natural gas to the EU from the United States. Huge for us. Big money for the U.S. economy and U.S. workers. And get that EU off of Russian LNG, natural gas. Going good. So where did it suddenly go bad? This is where it gets dicey. It got bad this week when we heard Germany say, no, I'm not getting off of Russian oil. Knocking off of Russian oil? What are you talking about? You had been saying this for 2 months of this invasion, you're getting off of Russian oil. There's Germany going back to its pre-2022 policies. Different than the United States, not agreeing to us, going back on what it said. Number one. Number two, what about that Iranian oil deal? As of March 30th, I thought it was still on the books. In fact, it was very hard to find an update. I told viewers on Evenings LA 2 nights ago, I'm going to find the update. What happened to the Iranian oil deal? Isn't it done? We were told it was done. And then I found it. And then I found the oil deal notes. It's not easy to find this type of data, folks. This is buried behind a haystack in the barn. And it came from EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell later this week. He basically said, no deal. What happened? He said the JCPOA, which again is the document, is not getting to an end. Oh boy. So no deal on it. This is again the quote. It would be a shame to not reach some sort of agreement when we were so near to reaching one, but I cannot guarantee we'll reach an agreement. Wow. On March 31st, the President of the United States addressed the American people in the White House to say that he has a new energy policy. Somewhere, nowhere, absolutely not a cent of a syllable or a word did the President mention the JCPOA. Nowhere did he mention Iran. Why? He doesn't have the deal. He doesn't have the deal. He should have been mentioning that because that's 1.5 million barrels across the entire landscape. Let's go over how oil works. You have to flood the international market with oil, not just flood the U.S. economy with oil. Because if we only flood our oil, then the price is still high for everyone, not just us, but internationally. Let's give you an example. You have 30 barrels of gasoline across the globe. If you put an extra 1 barrel in the United States, you still don't have enough barrels internationally. You need 100 barrels internationally, not just adding 1 extra barrel in the United States. What did the president say during that press conference? He said that we are releasing 1 million barrels The strategic reserves, which are stockpiled gasoline in the United States, the U.S. owns the gasoline, releasing 1 million barrels a day for 6 months. Good. Does that solve the situation? It does not. How does it not solve the situation? Number one, our partner allies are not getting off of Russian oil. Number two, our partner allies can't do the same. The President of the United States says he reached out to his Western allies to get them to release part of the strategic reserves. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Why? Because Italy doesn't have strategic reserves. It doesn't have stockpiled oil. And the rest of the countries don't stockpile the type of oil we do. So who? One country has some stockpiles. How about the rest of the remainder of the Western allies? They don't have stockpile. So the comment was sort of off the cuff. It wasn't actually accurate. Number two, it doesn't work because it's too slow. The release of strategic reserves in the United States is too slow. We need something flooding the world economy. And finally, number three, it's not prolific enough. You need the oil across all the countries, not just the United States. Translation, it ain't working. So that was the president's announcement this week on that situation. The next one is the wheat and grain. Here's the wheat and grain situation. It ain't getting better. The price of the wheat, which impacts you at the supermarket, the price of a loaf of bread, price of your favorite breakfast cereal, is going up. It ain't going down. And there's no end in sight. In fact, it's getting worse. Let me tell you why. The farmers who drive the tractors have to put, you know what I'm about to say, gasoline in the tractor. And if they have to put the gasoline in the tractor, it costs more money to drive the tractor. And guess what they also need? They need manure. And they don't have manure because Vladimir Putin is the largest manure producer in the globe, especially when he talks. And with that, it costs more money to harvest wheat. And if it costs more money to harvest wheat, they will increase the price of wheat domestically even more than they have. And you can't afford more than you're already paying for a loaf of bread. Get ready for that R word again. Here it comes, recession. Not solving the situation for wheat, not solving the situation for grain, not solving the situation for oil and gas. Remember, the wheat is not available in the Middle East or Eastern Europe because it's supplied from that hotbed of eastern Ukraine, where Vladimir Putin has now rededicated his forces to the eastern part of Ukraine. And with that dedication, the farmers aren't harvesting their crop. The crop this season is lost. They aren't preparing the crop for next season. That crop is lost as well. And when they're defending their country, crops could be lost for generations to come. This is all being very problematic. Translation for you and your money is that sick stimulus is getting dicey. What is my takeaway on this tonight? It's very fluid, but I am the opinion at the moment that I am questioning whether sick stimulus is going to become just a U.S. policy and not a U.S. progressive Germany and France policy. Because the German Chancellor the German Chancellor this week said, I'm not getting off of Russian products. That was the whole concept of sick stimulus. The whole concept of is you get off of sick stimulus because of the problem of those Russian products. Now, the lost part of the Russian products that we are just, 3 days away from is huge. And that is the potential default of Vladimir Putin around April 4th. He has $2 billion of debt repayment, which is principal, due April 4th. If he does not meet that debt obligation, folks, it is very serious. His economy is already devalued. His economy is already potentially in the next Cuba. His economy is already at credit valueless. And guess what? It impacts you. Why? Because you don't know how much U.S. bank, your big banks in the United States, have invested in Russia. They have something. We don't know how much. Debt equity. And that line item is about to be zero. When it becomes zero and they report their corporate earnings, yes, banks could potentially take major hits or potentially become financially unstable. That is why sick stimulus is needed. 7 stimulus. What's the latest update on that tonight? That is that student loan debt forgiveness. Wow. The president has really 3 choices. He's outlined, and he has an outlined date, May 2nd. Student loan, the repayment of your student loan was frozen, meaning you did not have to make a payment as soon as COVID started. And that freezing of your repayment, meaning you don't have to make a payment, is in place all the way up until May 2nd, 2022. That is when the freezing is lifted. You have to start making payments, unless 3 events happen. Why? Because the president's chief of staff, Ron Klain, said this. The president's chief of staff says the president understands there's a May 2nd deadline to lift the moratorium on repaying your debts. The president will make a determination by May 2nd, Klain says, on student loan debt forgiveness. He will either, 1, forgive your student loan debt, 2, not forgive it for now, but extend the moratorium so you don't have to repay debt while the president's thinking about the forgiveness factor. Or 3, just do nothing, let everything lie and say good luck. I don't think the president's doing the last one. I think he's doing the first and second one. And I think he may be moving closer to forgiving. Why? Because the president's own education secretary under the Obama-Biden administration said, go do it, Joe. He said this week. He said, go do it, because you and I know, Joe, as vice president, we put in the executive branch authority, the law, to allow you to do it. So why would you not do it? And if you tried to do it, and you did do it, who's going to unravel it? Yeah, Republicans in the Senate, they don't have enough votes. Very fascinating across the board. It's a very fascinating week, folks. And in a week like this, there's a lot of economic data. And with that economic data, it's important. And with that economic data, it's important to understand where you're going and where we are right now. One of the things I always subscribe to on this channel is supporting you the importance of getting money when it's available and not waiting around, because the future may give you a new outlook that was not what you anticipated. Tonight, I'm going to give you that outlook. And the outlook is potentially not what you'd hope to hear. And I'm saying it for the first night on Evenings LA. In my opinion, the U.S. economy is currently in a recession. I believe that if you look at the cumulative elements that came out this week and the week before, there's enough data signal that we are in recession. Let me give you the data points tonight and you make your own determination. First, the U.S. economy can go into recession if certain parts of its economy are in recession, or world economies that we do business with are in recession. So are any of the world economies we're doing business with in recession? They are really close, but they're not in it. How about in the United States? Are any of the industries in recession? Depending on who you ask, the housing market is either in recession or in stagflation. In my opinion, it's in recession tonight. Why? Number one, the mortgage yields are unsustainable. 5% is a mortgage rate we've not seen since the 1980s. No one is going to be able to afford a 5% mortgage rate to buy a home. And if you don't buy my analysis of that, just look at the data. The housing sales for 4 consecutive months are way down. The cost to build a home or to repair a home are way up. This is an inverted market where people are buying homes based upon a belief that they will have more in that home in value in 6 months, meaning the house is going to go up in value. And I think they're buying on the wrong projection. Let me go over the data. There's an inversion that many think are happening in the housing market where people think that the price is going to keep on going up. And other people think, no, they're going to go really down very quickly. The cost to repair the home going through the roof. The cost to build the home going through the roof. The cost to mortgage the home go through the roof. And the cost and the price to sell the home down. Yeah, 4 consecutive months of down sales. That is a recessionary number. It's very clear in my book. Now, what else is signaling recession besides just that industry? When you look at the bond market, that is signaling a recession. I am not the only person who's telling you this analysis. This is called the inversion curve. What is the inversion curve? The inversion curve is so important to know. The inversion curve is, I'm going to use by example the following. You go to the bank and you say, I want to put money away because I don't really need it. I want to invest it. Oh, what about a certificate of deposit, a CD? Everyone knows what a CD is. Okay, what are the two options? We have a 6-month or we have a 60-year. Well, obviously, if it's put away for 60 years, it pays a higher interest rate than 6 months. Obviously, not this week. No, it's inverted. Suddenly, the 6-month pays more than 60 years. I'm using a hyper example of this. But the bond yields tonight are inverted again, and very, very serious. These are the treasury notes, the 2-year, the 30-year. They're inverted, meaning a shorter note is paying more than a longer note. It's not supposed to be that way. When did that last happen? 2006, when we went to recession. There you go. Same situation as well. We're looking at the situation for the unemployment market, and I think the unemployment market tonight is signaling that it may be heading into recession. Why? Because we have a element where people say there's a labor shortage. We can't get people to work. And then you look at the data and says, wait a second, the unemployment numbers are going up and the unemployment numbers are not improving. You can't find people to work, but then people are putting more claims in. That signals that people are sitting by the wayside using saved up savings, thinking that a better thing is coming. And when it doesn't come, guess what? They go under. When you cannot afford your standard of living, like rent or food or gas, and you're staying home and not taking a job, thinking a better job is coming, you're on unemployment. What happens if that better job doesn't come? What happens if the businesses shrink, that the economy doesn't grow at 6.9% compared to 7%? Yeah, you heard it earlier in this video. It's a domino effect, and that signals where we're potentially going. Finally, a lot of analysts today, and I agree with them as well, says that Jay Powell really cannot have two ways. He can either choose inflation or he can choose recession. You can't have both. I got to tell you, I agree with them. I think Jay Powell has really made a big error. He made a big error last year when he said that inflation was going to be 2 to 3% in December. It wasn't. He made a big error when it said it was going to be temporary, transitory, that horrible word that I always hated. It wasn't. He said that inflation can get down to 1.9% later this year. I don't think he can do it. He said that we can gauge inflation, and we have basically an understanding of what's happening with Vladimir Putin, and that if we raise interest rates, we bring down inflation. No. Supply chain is what's causing inflation. Interest rates may not fix the situation. Here's what's happening is that if you raise interest rates and they don't work, and inflation is still getting higher because it takes too hard to get the product from China to the United States, then suddenly you have high inflation and you don't have product. Yeah, that is a very bad domino effect. Do I believe we're in recession? Yes. Do I believe that the recession is permeating across all industries? No. Do I think that a recession takes sort of a linear effect? It does. If you're not around in the 1990s, the recession of the 1990s started on the East Coast and then proceeded with the West Coast. New York went into the recession only 6 months before the West Coast in the 1990s. And then when the recession was over, New York came out of the recession 6 months before the West Coast went into the recession. So there's a geographical element when we're talking about recession. There's also an industry situation. You may say tonight that the housing industry is in the recession, but perhaps not the banking industry. You may say the car industry, because guess what? The car sales are way down for 3 consecutive months, the worst level we've seen in a very long time. Everyone bought cars in 2021. No one's buying cars in 2022. This is sort of that inversion that's happening right tonight. One after another. You may not see every industry go into recession at the same time, but I think that Jay Powell is making a very big error in that half basis point across the board. Where are you and I? We're getting checks. We're cashing checks. We're cashing every single check we can get. So that's why it's so important to really listen and pounce. I don't want you sitting back and saying, you know what? I'm just going to wait around for that Build Back Better provision for this to land because I really like it. And I just want to wait for that one. No. You get these checks tonight, folks. You become a member right tonight, folks. You get these checks right tonight. Because with an economy that's changing so dramatically by the week, by the day, where I tell you that Jay Powell's doing quarter basis point, then suddenly 50 basis points, then it's maybe 2 months of 50 basis point. When we see everyone buying cars, no one buying cars. When we see unemployment claims good and then suddenly bad, you want to grab every darn check you can grab by the minute, by the second, and don't sit back. So go to the top of the channel and become a member. Get that incredible membership newsletter Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. To get the $6,500 check, to get the $15,000 to $80,000 checks, to get the MSC checks, and get them right today. Don't sit around. And when anything else becomes law, it comes to you right across the board. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, to the shores of the Black Sea, there's a lot happening. And it could change even dramatically in the next 7 days. You do not want to miss a video. So tune in nightly, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. For America's most watched show on financial news in prime time, it's Evenings Lalate. 6 o'clock is Evenings Countdown, 7 o'clock Stream Stimulus, 8 o'clock Extra, 9 o'clock Sunset. Stay informed, stay focused, and stay with this channel overnight for our overnight live edition as well. Stay here, stay focused, get all these big sums of money, never lose faith, never lose promise, and pounce as a purple hawk as LA continues.